Once upon a time, there was a rich and grumpy judge. He liked staying in fancy people's houses, sitting on their fancy chairs, and eating all their fancy food. If someone didn't have a nice place or nice food, he didn't want to know them. He was a crooked judge. He took bribes and gave bad judgments. His mother knew it. The people knew it. Even his kids knew it. According to Jesus, this judge was no good. But he didn't care what God or anyone else thought of him. In the same town, there was a woman who had no family, a widow. She needed the judge's help in her case, but the judge didn't want to know her. Every day she went to the courthouse, but the judge wouldn't even hear her case. She had nothing he wanted. The widow had nothing of value, except persistence. She had grit. She needed help and wasn't going to take no for an answer. Every morning when the judge arrived at court, there was the widow waiting on the footpath. Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. The judge ignored her. But when the judge walked out of the courthouse after session, the widow was still there. When he sat at his table for lunch, the widow was there. He'd go to the movies and the widow was there. He'd go home to his family, and who would be outside his house? The widow. The widow always wanting, always asking for the judge to help in her case. One day, after court, he snuck out the back way and into his car. Driving out through the car park, he looked in the mirror. There was the widow in the back of his car. What are you doing? The judge said. I want you to help in my case, said the widow. The judge sat motionless, staring out the car window. He thought to himself, I'm not scared of God. I don't care about people, and I certainly don't care about this widow. Yet because this woman is relentlessly bothering me, I will help in her case. Otherwise, she'll wear me out. He went round to her door and said, tell me again what you need. I can help.
There we go. Has anyone ever heard that story before? It's good here. You've heard the story before? It's actually from the Bible. Oh, I can't see anyone. Do you want to look it up? Grab a Bible, go to the contents page. So go past the blue colours. This isn't my Bible, I'm not used to it. This is a race. I got beaten before. Somewhere in there you'll find a page that says table of contents. It takes about as long to find as the actual book of the Bible itself because it's a fair way in. But anyway, I don't know, when you're writing to these Bible publishers, just say, put it back a bit. Are you guys hearing me all right? Not quite? No, up a bit, I think. And front of house volume. Thank you. So our book, there we go. Our book that we're looking for, you ready? And chapter I'll give you. You ready? This is a race. First person, put it on the head. If your head's sweaty, just hold your thumbs underneath it. Like I got a bit of a fright just then, so my head's a bit sweaty. So our book that we're looking for is Methuselah chapter 7. You ready? Go. No, there's no such book as Methuselah. So Luke chapter 8. Luke chapter 8. It's in the New Testament somewhere. And first one there, Luke chapter 18. That was just to put you off the track. Luke 18. Oh man, I've been beaten again. It was already there. Someone had it open for you from the first service. Luke 18. Nice to see you keeping it in the family, Laura. Oh, Mikey, you found it on your phone. Good job. Good job, Luke 18. You guys are great. Keep turning there. We're going to have a read of it. The stories in the Bible. I love, while you're still looking, the stories of Jesus. I love the way Luke tells stories. In the book of Luke, Luke also wrote the book of Acts. I love the way he tells stories. But Luke chapter 18, verse 1, if you're still looking, keep looking. It's on page 932. That's right. Then Jesus told his disciples a story or a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. We're going to look at that verse again. Always pray and not give up. He said, in a certain town there was a judge who neither feared God nor cared what people thought. And there was a widow in that town who kept coming to him with the plea, grant me justice against my adversary. For some time he refused, but finally he said to himself, even though I don't fear God or care what people think, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will see that she gets justice so that she won't eventually come and attack me. I never really understood that verse until having to do that with Judy. So thank you, Judy. You played the part of the relentless or persistent widow very well. And there's just no getting away. And I do mean it when I say no wonder God listens to your prayers when you pray. I'm sure you're the same way. Sorry, in a nice way. And the Lord said, listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones who cry out to him day and night? Will he keep putting them off? I tell you, he will see that they get justice and quickly. However, here's the question, the crunch. When the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth? Will he find faith on the earth? That's a really trick-telling question there. It's a big one. So the question here for you, why did Jesus tell the story? Why did Jesus tell that story? Why do you think? Well, let me just go. Jesus has a unique position. He's been on the other side of the prayer line. He's sat there, or whatever he did, and he's waited, and he's waited, and he's waited. He's waited for a call for help. He's waited for someone to ask for something, and the phone's gone empty, and he's going, I can see what's going on, but no one's asking. He's been on the Christian prayer help desk, and he's looked at it and he said, there's cobwebs growing on it because it's not being used. He knows that the Father has a fire hydrant full of resources and things that he can offer to his people, but we ask for a drip from the tap every now and then as we need it. Jesus tells this story because why? He wants us always to pray and not give up, Arabella. He wants us to always pray and not give up. He wants us to pray, pray, pray and not to give up. Can you say that for me today? That was fantastic. You guys are amazing. That was really good. For a first time, it was good anyway. I think it was really good. Let's say it like a bit louder, shall we? That's cool. Let's do it so the people at the first service can hear even though they're home. You ready? As loud as we can. This is like put your fingers in your ears if you need to. Turn your hearing aids down if you need to. Whatever. This is it. We're all going for it. Everyone. Always pray and not give up. Can you learn that verse? Can you put it into practice? That's what Jesus tells the story, to say, I want those people at church at 109 to go home and learn this. Always pray and don't give up. What does it mean to give up? Well, it means to grow faint or just to collapse, to drop on the ground. Have you ever had a running race? You saw that you weren't going to come first and you go, I'm just going to quit. That thought goes through my head every time I do a running race, pretty much. I'm just going to pull out. I'm going to stop now and walk home. I'll just talk to my friends as they catch up or whatever. But Jesus is saying, I don't want you to stop. You might not see an answer. I want you to and not give up. Okay, thank you. So if I'm looking at the screen, my screen's at the back, sorry. Jesus says he wants us to... Yeah, you go. So what's the story about? Like in the story, does God need to be nagged to do anything? Do we have to treat God like we treat our mums when we were kids? Mum, I'm hungry. Mum, can I have this? Can I have some food? And Mum says, no. And so you go again, Mum, can I have some food? I'm hungry. And she says, oh, Andrew, just go and get some white bread or something. You can have one piece and that's it until dinner time. Is God like that? Like, what's the story about? In the story, who are we in the story? Are we in the story at all? Are we in the story of the persistent widow and the judge? It's a question everyone's scared to answer, or you're trying to think about it. Can I just give you the answer now? It's okay. We are not in the story. We're not the judge, and we're not the widow. It's a story of contrast. Is God in the story? No. God is not the widow, and God is not the judge. The widow is there as a contrast to who we are. The judge is there as a contrast to who God is. We've got some things that we're going to say together. You guys are amazing at saying things out loud. We're going to say this together and believe this is our affirmations as we go and look at the contrast between ourselves and the widow. We are not the widow. That's good. We are not strangers to God. We are God's family. We have a promise of God's commitment. We have a promise of God's action. When Jesus is a master storyteller, there's never been a person in this world that could tell a better story than Jesus to illustrate a truth. So when he says, I want to illustrate somebody who's not going to get heard, in first century Israel, he chooses a widow. Why? Because first of all, ladies weren't allowed in the courtroom. Secondly, widows weren't cared for or looked after in those days. They had no government support system. If you were on your own as a lady, you had to find your own food, no matter how old you are. No matter how big your walking stick was or not, you had to find your own food and you had to find your own justice system. The justice system was totally different back then as well. The justice system was the judge would. It wasn't a courtroom like our one in Taupo where you used to go to. It would be a tent that would shift around from town to town. And on that day that judge went to town, the people would go to the judge. Couldn't get to the judge. He had minions around him. And you would go to the minion and you'd pull out your wallet and you would beg the minions, the people around him, his servants, to say, will you let the judge hear my case? And if you paid the servants enough money, he would pass someone to the judge and the judge would hear your case. The widow had none. She had no standing before the judge. And so that's why we come in before God and we say, do you know, God, we're not strangers to you. Not only don't we have family that will represent us in court, we do. We're God's family. My children have more access to me than anyone in this room, except for my wife. We're God's family. We have a promise of God's commitment. And we have a promise of God's action. We're not the widow, and neither is God the judge. Here's our affirmation. So we're getting there with saying things. It's going to come up. Are you ready for this? Let's do it nice and loud and clear. God is... Oh, yeah, good. God is not disturbed when we ask for help. He's not freaking out. God... Sorry, carry on then. Yeah, you go. Yeah. Nice. He tells a story because he wants us to pray. He wants us to talk. He wants us to share. But he wants us to pray in a certain way. And when we just chuck that first verse up on again, thanks team. He wants us to pray in a certain way. Why does he tell the story of the widow and the judge? Well, it's a story of contrast, but he also wants to tell us the story because the widow in her wisdom understands that she needs justice. She's been wronged in occasions, she needs justice. And there's only one way in the land to get justice, and that's for the judge to make a judgment. There's no police, just judges, some temple rulers and stuff like that, some temple police, but nothing in society. It's just the elders and the judge tells the elders what to do. So she knows she can only go to this judge for justice. When we talk, we go to God for justice. We go to God. He is ultimately our greatest help. So what do we learn from the widow? What do we take home, kids? When you're hungry, where do you go? And the pantry's locked, metaphorically. That means It's open, but you know you're not allowed to get in there. Yeah, so an axe. No, you'd have to get your axe through your mum to get in the cupboard kind of thing. You go to mum for food or dad. But when you go to mum for food, what's your approach? Do you say that you're hungry or do you just stand there and expect your mum to understand? Do you know where I'm going with this? Do you kids understand? So there was this guy, he went to McD's, right? He was real hungry. So he said to his flatmates, I'm going to McD's, I'm going to get a feed, and then I'm going to come home and eat it in front of you guys because I've got money and you don't. So he went to McD's, right? Driving through the drive-thru, he pulls up, massive queue, and then he gets to a certain machiney thing and he hears this voice, because it's first time at McD's, and this voice says, can I take your order, please? Well, I spent ages at that station and then ages at McDonald's, and then he got home and his flatmate says, where's your bag? Where's your Macca's? Where's your stuff? And he said, oh, they were so hopeless. I went in there for a feed and I came away with nothing. And his mate said, well, what did you order? He said, order? I didn't order anything. I just told them I was hungry. I expect them to give me a feed. So you look at me strangely. So let me ask a question. What was the last thing you asked of God? If it was about food, did you say, I'm hungry, or I'd like a pie? And tell him what kind of pie it was. Were you specific in what you're asking? Did you clarify what you're asking? Did you do it persistently? Okay, if you were praying for a friend, has anyone been praying for their friends or family members lately? What specifically did you ask? After our 9 o'clock service this morning, and somebody came up to me. I won't tell you who it was, but someone came up to me and says, Andrew, do you remember about 8 or 9 years ago I came up to you and said, Andrew, I just want you to know I'm praying for you. And I don't remember the story, but apparently I said to him, well, that's great. What are you praying for? And he was totally stumped. He said, I've been praying for you for years, but I can't tell you what I've been praying for. I've just been praying that God will bless you, or God will look after you, which is cool. I appreciated it. But what are you asking of God? What are you expecting him to do? The question that Jesus says is that, when you pray, God answers instantly. You don't see the answer instantly, but he puts it into action straight away. But the question is he going to actually find faith when he comes back? So it says in his church, the church might be full, but will there be anyone trusting him for an answer to prayer? Trusting him enough to be specific enough in what they ask? Will they find that? When you look in the book of Luke, and he's telling, Jesus is trying to tell his people, you need to pray, you need to pray, you need to pray. He comes to Luke 18 and verse 35, you'll see the verse there, the beggar receives his sight. So there's this guy, right? And he lives in Jericho. It's been rebuilt by then. After Joshua conquered it, it got rebuilt. And this beggar, he can't see a thing. And so he just sits there helplessly begging for food. But then he hears a noise over top of his voice and it's a crowd coming past. And he gets excited and so he says louder, food. And the crowd gets louder and louder. He's not getting anything. And so he says to the crowd, what's going on? Why all the noise? And the crowd said, well, have you heard of Jesus of Nazareth, that guy that's been walking around the land doing all these amazing things? He's coming past right now. And so he yells out, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. And the crowd say, shh, that's totally inappropriate. You're scruffy, you're dirty, you're filthy. You're blind, you've got nothing. He doesn't want anything to do with you. And so they try and hush him, but he keeps yelling out all the louder, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. And so Jesus actually hears and says, bring that guy to me. Jesus knows exactly what the guy needs. But you know what he says? Have a look. Jesus stopped, verse 40, Luke 18. Jesus stopped and ordered the man to be brought to him. When he came near, Jesus asked him, what do you want me to do for you? The craziest question I think Jesus might have asked if you think about it. Jesus knew what he wanted. Jesus knew what he needed. But he said, what do you want me to do for you? And so the guy responded simply, Lord, I want to see. And Jesus said, that statement of faith, or Jesus said, receive your sight, your faith has healed you. Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus, praising God. When all the people saw it, they also praised God. Jesus wants us to be specific. Jesus wants us to... Oh, we've missed it. Come on. Always pray and not give up. I just really hope that you take that home today. And for you people watching online, we're going to say goodbye now. I just want to tell something that I don't want to get out on public.